Welcome to College Football Live, presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
If there's anything we can be sure of, this is the eve of chaos, because every Saturday it feels like what we think we know turns out to be completely not true. We'll break it all down, though. College Football Live, Joey Galloway, David Pollack, I'm Jason Fitz, and let's get right to one of the big matches of the weekend. That's number 11, Florida, at home against the top-ranked Crimson Tide. Alabama's been rolling everybody so far, but Florida isn't a pushover, and this game is in the swamp. Could the unpredictability continue? Let's hear from some of the key players in this game.
Anytime you have the opportunity to beat the number one team in the country, it's going to be huge.
This is our first SEC game. We know how good of an opponent Florida is. We know how hostile the environment is going to be.
It's Bama, like, you can't look past them or anything. You just got to come out there and play your game. Knowing that we're the underdogs, that bring more fire to the flame.
This is why you come to Florida, you know, so you can play in these type of games.
I got that adrenaline. Somebody let me in.
The offense, they're very explosive.
There goes Richardson. See ya.
He keeps plays alive, and he's really good with his feet extending plays.
Touchdown, Alabama.
We know it's going to be a crazy atmosphere in the swamp.
It's going to be loud.
Having 90,000 Gator fans going crazy always gives you a little bit of an edge.
There's nothing like being in an opposing stadium where it's packed and everybody's going crazy. I love the energy.
I got that adrenaline. I got that adrenaline. I got to represent.
We want to play with the best and compete with the best, so I feel like it's a great start for us.
Right now, it's the most important game to us because it's the next one.
It's time to bring the A game.
I got that adrenaline. Somebody let me in.
All right, the Gators will host the Crimson Tide in the swamp, looking to reverse their fortunes against fellow SEC foes. Since Tebow's departure following the 2009 season, Florida's winless in 6 games against Bama, having been outscored by an average of nearly 2 touchdowns in those contests. So, David Pollack, how does Florida pull off the impossible and get the upset here?
First of all, just about everybody's 0-6 or 0-10 or 0-12 against Bama. Actually, the 14-point differential ain't bad. When you look at Florida, I think you're finding your way offensively. But the one thing you do know is they can run the football. They'll do it in 2 different ways with 2 different quarterbacks. Emory Jones is going to start, but he's got great wiggle. Dan Mullen has consistently run quarterback run game. What does Alabama struggle with typically in the past? We've seen them struggle with the run game, with the tempo. So I think Florida uses the momentum at home, uses their 2 quarterback system with the new kid Richardson and the running back, uses Davis running the football, tries to outscore Bama. I think you got to score points, and Dan Mullen, one of the best offensive coaches in college football, he's going to get a lot of it done, I think, on the ground.
It's always interesting when we have these conversations like, how do you beat Alabama? And it's outscore them, because their offense in the past few years has been that good that we don't even have a conversation about someone trying to stop their offense or slow their offense down. So you're right. They have to just simply outscore them. And these young quarterbacks, and Jones and Richardson, are going to have their best games of their lives to pull this off, because the defense of Alabama is extremely good. They get after the quarterback, and I think they set a tone in the first week against Miami. Defensively, they set a tone against an athletic quarterback in De'Ara King that they were going to get around him, send some blitzes, and then later in the game just flat get there with their front 4. So we talk about it like, hey, just outscore them, but I don't know how you do that right now.
It's easy, just go do it.
Yeah, that's all we're asking for. Well, Pollack mentioned the point spread. Take a look at this. Florida up against the odds in this one, quite literally. Alabama currently favored by 14.5 points, making the Gators the 2nd largest home underdogs while being ranked top 15 in the AP poll since the turn of the century. Each of these teams favored in the 4 matchups you see here were the top-ranked team in the country at the time of the matchup. So, Joey, is this massive point spread, is it more about Alabama, or is it more of a statement about where Florida is right now?
It is absolutely about Alabama. I can't think of a team in college football outside of maybe Georgia that wouldn't be a 14-point underdog to Alabama right now. David, maybe you have a couple in your bag, but as you look across college football, from what I've seen through 2-3 weeks, there's been 2 teams that have separated themselves, and then 1 team separated from that group. It's been Alabama's been the best team, and Georgia is behind them. I don't know who else in the country right now that you would think would stay within a 14-point spread against this Alabama team.
I think it says how much we trust Alabama and how much Vegas trusts Alabama. Like, dude, we've seen it now. I mean, Joey, we're going on 10 years of doing this stuff, and it's every year, and they show up every year, and there's question marks every year, and God, Mac Jones is gone. Okay, well, the next guy, Bryce Young's in, and he's the Heisman frontrunner at the current moment. So it's just a trust factor that Alabama's going to bring their best. Nick Saban's in press conferences against Mercer last week blowing up, and he's pissed off, and his team's not giving the right kind of effort because he knows he's talking to him and they're trying to win a championship down the road. So it says more to me about Alabama.
Yeah, mentioning championships, obviously everything has playoff implications, so this game is no different to that. When you talk about the playoff implications, we've got a graphic here to show everybody that gives you a little bit of an idea of what this means. Alabama's chance to make the college football playoff based on the result of Week 3. They win, it goes up to 82%. So with a Florida win, they get a massive jump in this, obviously, as everybody's trying to find a way to beat Bama to get that signature win. Easier said than done. Speaking of playoff implications, there are plenty of them elsewhere this weekend, including Auburn headed to Happy Valley to take on Penn State. That's obviously where Pollack is right now. Everybody's excited for the whiteout. Here's Trevor Matich with Trevor's take on the Penn State defense.
Auburn scored a combined 122 points against Akron and Alabama State. Yay. But as they watch Penn State's defense on tape, they'll see a whole new set of problems, including how they had a late goal line stand against Wisconsin where they had the Badgers continuously guessing wrong. So let's go to Madison. 2nd and goal. Couple of minutes to go. Penn State up by 6. Wisconsin sees 2 safeties back, so they figure they're going to run it. But then Jaquan Brisker fires at the snap and makes the tackle behind the line, behind the right guard. So next play, Wisconsin's like, okay, 2 safeties back. If you're going to be aggressive, we're going to throw the ball. But this time, Penn State drops 8. They only rush 3. And Wisconsin quarterback Graham Mertz doesn't have anywhere to throw the ball in all that crowd. So now it's 4th and goal, and this time Wisconsin almost guesses right. It is indeed a big blitz. It is indeed man coverage across the board, but where they get it wrong is that Brisker is in man coverage against the back. And when the back blocks, Brisker takes his eyes from his guy to the quarterback, who's about to throw the go-ahead touchdown to his tight end, and Brisker steps in front and takes it away. It is this ability that Penn State's defense has to get inside the head of the offense, combined with their athletes who can well and truly hit you in the mouth, that make this an utterly different kind of challenge for Bo Nix and this Auburn offense.
All right, speaking of Bo Nix, he's struggled in his career away from the Plains. The junior quarterback has thrown more interceptions than touchdowns in 9 road contests during his 3 seasons at Auburn, leading the Tigers to a 4-5 mark in those games. That compared to a stellar 20-1 touchdown ratio to interception ratio, while winning at home at higher than an 850 clip. So obviously the question becomes here, David Pollack, what's your level of confidence in Bo Nix?
Are we going like 1 to 10? If
we'll go 1 to 10, yeah.
1 to 10, I put it at about a 6. I haven't. I mean, listen, I'm not saying, I'm not trying to be negative to the kid, but he showed on the road he's struggled. It's a new offensive system. Obviously, I think gives them a little bit more hope. I like what they're doing, more 2 tight end sets, and I think they're more productive. I think they're less predictable. So this might give us a better indicator of where Bo Nix is. But I think Bo Nix is going to have the opportunity to have a run game with Tank Bigsby, who's one of the best players in college football at the running back spot. So 6 to 7, 6. Hey Joey, 6.85. How about that?
That's about the shakiest 6 I've ever heard a player get out of you, Pollack. It was, and honestly,
trying to be nice.
Yeah, I understand it because we need to see it from Bo Nix, and we've been talking about this for a couple years now. In the bigger spots, in the bigger games, he hasn't been that guy that they could lean on to go out and win a football game for him. So I understand why that 6 is shaky. In my mind, when he asked you the question, I was guessing you were going to go 5. And that's probably why you were a little hesitant when you went all the way up to number 6. But this will be a terrific test. This will be a better question after this game because this one is the one you're on the road, you're at Penn State. Penn State is also a team that is playing better than they did last season. So these are 2 teams that really need this win to sort of get their programs going in the right direction after last season.
Well, Joey, stick there for a second because you're talking about needing the win. And for Penn State, this looks like an unusual year in the Big Ten. Ohio State took a loss, right? So where does Penn State sit in your mind in the Big Ten?
The Big Ten is probably more wide open at this point in the season than we've seen it in a long time. if anybody had to pick a team that was probably the best in the Big Ten right now, they would say Iowa. And that is something we haven't said in the past few years. So Penn State's sitting in a situation where, because they're in the Big Ten East, they'll get their shot at Ohio State, they'll get their shot at Michigan. We don't know where they are yet, but what we do know is Sean Clifford has not turned the ball over this season. And that was a huge issue for Penn State last season, was turning the ball over, throwing interceptions. He hasn't done that yet, but they hadn't really played anybody. So we'll see after this game once again where Penn State is. But, I mean, I don't see anybody in the Big Ten East that I would say, hey, they're clearly the favorite.
Joseph Scott Galloway, you're telling me if I asked you the question right now and I said, Joey, who's the best team in the Big Ten? You're telling me the best team in the Big Ten is Iowa?
I would take Iowa right now for what they did against Indiana, what they did against Iowa State. I don't know how you would pick anybody else.
Because Ohio State's not insanely more talented, and I think Ohio State could score at will on those teams, even though those teams. Iowa's got a great defense, and their zone defense is awesome. But against all that skill, and we start putting some of those freak shows like Olave in the slot and saying, now you play zone, it usually doesn't add up well. And offensively, I think Iowa's still got a big question mark. They're not running the football like they were. I know they play great defense, but I'm still taking Ohio State as the best team in the Big Ten.
I'm chiming in here, Pollack. Are you not concerned about the fact that now two different teams have shown that you can run the ball directly at Ohio State?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. If you're asking me if I'm terrified of their defense, 100%. But if you're asking me if every defense in the Big Ten is terrified of their offense, the answer is yes. I mean, I think their defense, schematically, we can make some changes. We can learn how to be a spill player or a box player, learn how to play man-to-man coverage, and when my guy cracks, I know how to replace. We can do some of those adjustment things and get better. You can't get faster and get more freaks on the field. Ohio State is so much more talented than everybody else. That's the reason why Ohio State, in the end, I think they'll figure out, they'll get better defensively. I don't think they're going to be elite, but they're so good offensively and they're so much more skilled than everybody else. That's the problem for everybody else in the Big Ten.
Now, if you're saying, well, they figured out later, I would agree with you there. But I'm saying right now, after we just watched them lose to Oregon, after we watched the Minnesota game to begin with, I agree with you. There is a lot of offensive firepower. But defensively, they haven't been the team we expected to see. So if you take a team like Iowa, who we know to be physical, who we know to play with two tight ends, I would not say right now that Iowa could not run the ball against the Ohio State defense the way we know Iowa to be a physical football team. So, yes, I would feel comfortable saying through 2 weeks, Iowa's the better football team.
Let's get back to Penn State. Let's get back to this portion of Penn State because, Pollack, you're at the whiteout, obviously, for game day. Joey, you know this crowd so much. Yeah, exactly. What does this mean for athletes that are playing? Like, Pollack, when you're playing in an environment like that for Auburn and everybody that's involved in it, what impact does it actually have to the guys on the field?
I was a defensive lineman. Joey was the athlete. But it makes a big difference, especially from a standpoint of a defensive player, a defensive team. Listen, when we got the whiteout and everybody's going bananas, they can't communicate. The offense goes on a silent count. So I basically know the snap count as well as the offensive tackle knows the snap count, as opposed to being able to audibly say multiple snap counts. So it makes it harder for the offenses to communicate. It makes it a lot easier to have mental mistakes, and it makes it easier to get offsides. And so it's a huge benefit. And just the adrenaline. Remember, we're 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids. We change our mind every 2 seconds, but when that crowd's giving you all that juice, man, it keeps you fired up and it sustains you for a longer period of time.
Yeah, it'll be a terrific crowd there, and it'll be loud, it'll be noisy. And I think the only way for Auburn to go into Penn State in a whiteout and quiet this crowd is have success early. If they do not have success early in this game and do something to at least let the crowd sit down, it will be a long night. The noise, you can feel the energy in that stadium because they do such a great job with their whiteout. You know, there's a lot of stadiums in the country where you travel to and you say, man, that's a great crowd. Penn State's probably in the top 3 or 4 in that group of places where you go play. You can feel the noise, you can feel the energy, and that's outside of, you know, you're trying to focus on your job. And if you're Bo Nix and
it's time for our Invesco QQQ top performance. For that, we go to BYU, where they ended a 12-year, 9-game losing streak to the number 21 Utah Utes behind a huge game from quarterback Jaron Hall. Completed 60% of his passes, threw for 3 touchdowns, added 92 yards on the ground for the Cougars in a huge win for them. That leads us to what's up next for them. Something will have to give when a pair of undefeated teams in Arizona State and BYU square off against one another on Saturday. Each team riding 4-game winning streaks dating back to last season, with the Cougars winning each of their last 11 games at home. Here's BYU coach Kalani Sitake talking about Arizona State.
Tons of experience on their team and a lot of athleticism and speed. Just like many of the great programs out there in the P5 level, they're very big, athletic, strong, and really well coached. And so we've been really impressed with the things that we're seeing on film. Looking forward to the matchup and excited for this game, but looking forward to welcoming them into our stadium, into our home, and we'll see what happens. We're looking forward to a great matchup, and it's an honor for us to be on the field with those type of athletes and that coaching experience.
Now that's going to be a great game, but let's rapid fire through some other great games, starting with you, David Pollack. You're up. What you got first?
Give me Michigan State and Miami. I think this is a good chance for an upset. I love what I've seen from Michigan State so far this season. Mel Tucker, he's gone to the transfer portal, and if you've seen Kenneth Walker rushing the football, my goodness, making big plays, breaking tackles. I think they got the quarterback spot figured out with Peyton Thorne. Like, this is the best I've seen Michigan State look in a while. You want some context? They averaged 18 points a game last year. They got 40. They're averaging 40 this year. This offense is totally different. It looks really, really good. Will it continue to hold up? I do not know, but I love what I see from Michigan State so far this season.
And I got Purdue and Notre Dame, and we're still trying to figure out what is this Notre Dame team. We saw them play a barn burner against Florida State when they were up big, and they give up 18 points in the fourth quarter in a close game. If they play that way, then Purdue will absolutely have a chance to beat them with Jack Plummer playing at quarterback. Jack Cohn has been sacked 10 times through 2 games. Notre Dame has to fix that and fix their defense to beat Purdue.
10. That's aggressive. That's a lot. That's a lot of sacks, Joey. Hey, what about Cincinnati? I think the Cincinnati game this next week, man, it's a big week. We talk about Cincinnati being a top 10 team already. Remember, they don't have an automatic bid. Not a lot of respect for that team, for the AAC. Dude, you're already ranked this high. You got Indiana this week. You got Notre Dame in a couple weeks. I think when you look at Desmond Ridder continue to evolve as a passer, I think this is a team that can show this week and the next game against Notre Dame after their bye week that, hey, maybe we can get in this playoff. Maybe we can start that discussion now.
Yeah, how different does the Nebraska-Oklahoma matchup look than what it used to look like back in the days? Now it'll be air-out offense of Oklahoma trying to score 70 points with Spencer Rattler throwing the ball around. They didn't look great in week 1 against Tulane, made a lot of people nervous with that defense not playing well. Now they're going up against Nebraska, Adrian Martinez, who leads the team in rushing. He's also their quarterback. A lot will be on his shoulders, try to keep